Parents, don't be upset at your kids solely because they lost in competition, right? So this is a very silly reason, I think, to be upset at your kid. If they lost in an amateur jiu-jitsu event when they're 8 or 9 or 10 or 11 or 12 years old, in the grand scheme of things, doesn't really matter. There are far more important things that you should be aware of and should be upset about that are much more important than if they lost. Because look, no kid is going to win every single match that they go in. You know, it just doesn't happen when they're that young. So first of all, it's silly just from a pragmatic sense. They're not going to win every single match. Sometimes they're going to go against kids that are much better than them, and they're going to lose. And that's fine. That provides an opportunity for growth, right? They failed, and now they can analyze why that happened. You know, their coach can analyze why that happened, and they can make improvements so that it's less likely to happen in the future. And that's the thing, guys. This is a long game, okay? The first competition, the second competition they go to ultimately doesn't matter. It's the series of events that they go to. It's how good they get over time. It's how many skills they acquire. And that is way more important than whether they lost this single individual match or competition. Ultimately, that doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. You want to focus on the long term. There are legitimate reasons to be upset at your kid, though, if they went to competition. The first is bad sportsmanship, right? So if they started crying and got upset just because they lost, right? They didn't get hurt. They're just crying and upset because they lost, right? They need to stop that, right? That's not acceptable. They need to be in control of their emotions when they lose. They need to shake the other kid's hand. They need to go and they need to shake the other coach's hand, okay? And they need to be in control of their emotions. Now, obviously, when kids are very young, you know, it's a common thing that they just cry and they get upset when they lose. You know, no one likes losing, but they need to have you need to develop an emotionally mature response towards failure in your child, right? And, you know, when they do their first few competitions, they may cry, and you don't need to chastise them harshly for it, but you do need to let them know that, hey, you know, this is not acceptable because sometimes you're going to lose and you need to show good sportsmanship and you need to maintain your composure, right? I, as an adult, obviously, if I lose a professional jiu-jitsu competition, I'm not going to cry. I would look ridiculous, right? And so your kids will eventually be adults. And so you need to make sure you're developing that emotional maturity in them at a young age. So bad sportsmanship, you know, crying, that kind of stuff, you know, and I would include things like, you know, doing illegal moves or you know, cheating in some way. That's definitely something you should chastise your kid for if they do that. But you know, not the actual losing. I don't think that's something you should chastise them for. The second reason you might want to chastise them is they gave up during the match. Okay, so like I said, actually losing the match is not a problem. But if they gave up, if they didn't continue to fight to the very end of the match to actually win, that is something to be upset at them with, right? You don't want a kid that when they have adversity, but there's still a chance of success, that they just stop trying. You don't want that. You want your kid to persevere to the bitter end when it comes to dealing with adversity and trying to achieve victory. And that includes in a match where maybe they're 2 minutes in and they're down by 8 points or 10 points or 15 points, right? Doesn't matter. They should be trying their best to win because, you know, you might be down by 20 points. Guess what? If you get a submission, you still win. So it's not acceptable for a kid to just quit and give up and stop trying in the middle of a match, right? That is something that you need to chastise them for, and it is something that you need to fix. The last reason is they're just flat out not listening to their coach, right? Now, this doesn't mean that the coach gave them advice and they've just failed to take it because there was a scramble and it transitioned quickly. This is more so like the coach is giving specific advice constantly throughout the match, and the child is just deliberately ignoring them or just not listening for their coach, right? So obviously if they're just deliberately ignoring that advice, that's worse than if they're just, you know, in the moment and they're just not listening to their surroundings, right? That's more of a technical thing that you can correct. Be like, hey, listen, you know, I know you were scrambling and you're just trying to win, but make sure you listen to your coach. Make sure you have your ears open and you can take in that information. That's something you can definitely tell them. You know, if they're just in the moment and they're not actually hearing what they're saying. But if they are hearing what the coach is saying and they're choosing to just deliberately ignore everything that they say, right, and they lose the match because of that, yeah, that's definitely something you can chastise them for. So overall, guys, right, you want to, you want to make sure your kids have good principles when they go out and compete. You want to make sure they have good sportsmanship. You want to make sure they never give up. You want to make sure they're always trying their best. You want to make sure they're listening and working hard to improve their skills. That is way more important than whether they actually win or lose, because again, we're not focused on a singular competition. We're focused over the long game. So I hope you guys like this video. Make sure you share it if you do. If you like this channel, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you click that notification bell. It really helps us, and you guys will get notified every single time we have a new video. Remember, we do these talking head videos, and we also do technique videos twice a week. So thanks a lot, guys. I'll see you guys next time.